Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury's back in the courtroom. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch. Good. All right, call your next witness, please. Ms. Hicks.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Deputy Laughlin.
Way, please. Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand, please, to administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, please be seated. Tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names, please.
My name is Jacob Anthony Laughlin, spelled JACOBANTHONYLOFLAND.
Ms. Higgs, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Deputy Laughlin. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. You work for the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Department, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently on patrol?
Yes.
Now, prior to today, back in July of 2012, were you working at the Arapahoe County Jail?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall what your assignment was over there at that time?
I was assigned to the infirmary at the jail.
The medical unit?
The medical unit, yes.
Do you remember what shift you were working over there at that time?
Swing shift. There was 2:30 to 12:30. Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday off.
So you worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Sunday, Monday. I thought I was missing a day. Thank you. Officer, do you recall in the late part of July of 2012 that Mr. Holmes came to be an inmate there at the medical unit? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to speak with you briefly about an incident that occurred related to Mr. Holmes on July 24th of 2012, okay?
Okay.
And I believe there was a point in time on that day that another inmate, not Mr. Holmes, brought a note to your attention. Do you recall that?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you explain to the jury what occurred?
Could I have my report to just reference to?
Let me ask you a couple questions, and
Okay.
yes, you will be able to. You wrote a report regarding that incident, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Would looking at that report refresh your recollection as to exactly how things occurred
Yes.
with regard to that note?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If I may approach?
You may. And, sir, you can move the microphone so that it's closer to your mouth.
Okay, I wasn't sure how close
Yeah,
it is.
you're good. Thank you.
So I'm handing you your report from that date. If you could just take a look at that, and then when you feel it's refreshed your recollection, go ahead and look up at me, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that refresh your recollection about this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At some point on July 24th of 2012, did another inmate, not Mr. Holmes, bring some sort of paper note to your attention?
Yes, ma'am. It was one of the cleaners for the infirmary. He was cleaning up after lockdown, and he brought a note to me there was a slot in the window, and it was a note written by another inmate addressed to James Holmes. It said Holmes on it.
Okay.
It didn't say James Holmes. It just said Holmes.
All right. When you say this was a person that was part of the cleaning staff, is this an inmate that comes to the medical unit to help clean the jail facility?
I'm not positive if he was if he came down to the medical facility or if he was a worker that was housed in the medical facility at the time. There were times where we had trustees come down to medical, but then there were also times that there are folks that didn't have, weren't able to go to general population, but they're able to work and have good time.
Okay.
They would work from the medical unit after lockdown.
Nonetheless, this person is an inmate that is helping clean the facility.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I just want to ask you a few questions about the layout and where that person would be cleaning, okay? So, without getting too specific, my understanding is that there are several cells within the medical unit for inmates, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then there's also one cell area that is left open for the inmates to access when they have time out of their cell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then there's sort of like a common open space where someone would have access to the shower and that type of thing. Is that right?
Yeah, if you were to look at it, it's just an extra wide corridor with doors on either side, and there's phones at one end, the showers. That's kind of the common area. And then MC2 is one of the cells that's designated for the general population when they're out on their time, that they can, there's a television in there and a seating area where they can watch TV and have their time out.
And when we're talking about time out, we're talking about a limited period of time on a daily basis, I think for about an hour that they're allowed out of their cells. Is that correct?
Yeah. During that time, the minimum requirement was an hour. Okay. We tried to get everyone out longer than an hour, okay, but the minimum requirement's an hour, okay, at the time.
So when you're saying that there was a person in there cleaning, are we talking about sort of the central corridor, the shower, and the common room?
Yeah, they don't clean, when the trustees come down or the trustee that works in that area cleans the cells, I mean not the cells, the area, they do not clean the cells. Okay. They clean only the general hallway, corridor, the general area where they're allowed to, the inmates are on their timeout. They do not clean any of the cells except for MC2, which is designated as a public area for when they're on their timeout.
Okay. So this person brought you this note. Were you advised where this note was found?
Yes.
Okay, and where was that?
It was found on the desk in between the sitting area, in MC2. Okay. You know, that general area where he was cleaning. It's just a note that was written.
You said it was addressed to Holmes, correct? And do you recall what the note indicated?
I object to hearsay.
Your Honor, we're not offering it for the truth of the matter. We're just offering it for the fact that it was written.
All right.
We're happy to have an instruction for the jury.
Would counsel approach, please? right, the objection as to hearsay is overruled. Members of the jury, I am allowing evidence of the contents of this note, not for the truth of those contents, but rather for purposes of showing the effect on this witness, what actions this witness took as a result of becoming aware of the contents of the note, as well as the result, the effect of the contents of the note on the defendant when the defendant apparently learned about the contents of the note. All right? Does everyone understand that? Okay, and everyone's saying yes and nodding their head yes. Okay, Ms. Higgs, you may proceed.
So I believe, Deputy Laughlin, my question was something along the lines of, what did this note say?
So on one side of it, it said Holmes, in big letters, and the other side says, can I please get your autograph and draw me something? Just put it in the magazine and put it under the chair, please. I want to be the only one with it, or give me your booking number.
Did it appear to you from the contents of this that another inmate was trying to have some communication with Mr. Holmes?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you then take some action as a result of reading this note?
I first reviewed the video.
Okay. And just so the jury's clear, when you're talking about the video, you go back and look at the surveillance video that you have of all the cells in the medical unit?
At that time, we had cameras in every cell, and we were able to go back into time, for lack of a better word, and review what had happened the previous hours before in MC2, where the note was found.
Okay. And what did you find out from the video?
We saw at about 7:20, according to my report.
Is that AM or PM?
7:20 p.m., 1920 hours. The note was found at 2328 hours, so that was 11:38. So at 7:20 p.m., we saw inmate Warren place a note on the table in MC2, and he did that. And at about 22:44 hours, which is 10:44 p.m., Holmes was on his timeout, and he read the note. He sat down in a chair. He always sat down in the chair, and this is when he wasn't in our facility for very long at all, but he would sit down in the same chair and watch television. And while he was sitting there, he reached over and opened the note. I don't know if he read it. It appeared that he read the note. And then he just put it back down in the same place and did nothing else with it. He didn't get up and draw a picture or sign it or anything like that. He just put it back down where he found it.
Seeming to kind of ignore the queries or requests within the note.
It appeared to be that he was not concerned about what was in there.
Because you saw that he didn't respond to what was requested in the note, did you even bother to have any communication with Mr. Holmes about it?
No, I didn't ask. We didn't talk to Mr. Holmes about it whatsoever.
You did, however, speak with inmate Warren because this is not appropriate behavior, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Just 1 minute, I think we might be done. Thank you, Officer is it officer or deputy?
Deputy
Deputy
Laughlin.
Deputy Laughlin, I appreciate it. I don't have any further questions for you.
Thank you.
Do you have any cross-examination, Mr. Edson?
Briefly, Judge, if I may. Good afternoon, Deputy.
Good afternoon.
Were you also assigned to the medical unit a few days prior to July 24th, so in that July 19th, July 20th time period? Was that still your assignment?
I would have to see if those were my days off, but yes, I was assigned to it. I had Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and July 24th, 2012, I don't know what the day was on that.
Okay. Fair to say, though, you were assigned to the medical unit.
Yeah.
That was my question. Not
Yes.
necessarily if you were working on the night of the
Yes,
shooting,
sir.
but you were assigned to that particular area as of the night of the shooting, correct?
Yes.
So as of July 24th, fair to say that the defendant already had media interest. His picture, his allegations were already in the media. Is that fair to say?
Objection,
was.
Your Honor, I think this is outside the scope of direct examination.
Overruled.
And I also think that it's not relevant, and it's, yes, not relevant.
Overruled.
Go ahead.
Yes, he watched the news every night. It was on the media, yes.
Even in the medical unit or the infirmary as you described, do inmates have access to visitors?
Yes.
Just have one moment, please.
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Okay. Is there any redirect?
Just briefly, Deputy, the camera that's in MC1 is, as you walk in the door, it's to the upper left, looking down into that room, is that correct?
I'm going to object beyond the scope of cross.
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may approach?
Yes. All right, I understand where Ms. Hicks is going now, so the objection is overruled. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
Absolutely. When you walk into MC2, when you're standing at the door, facing that cell where the television is, on the right-hand side are the chairs, is that right? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you. The camera is up on the left-hand side, looking down to capture that area of the room.
There were some, it's been over 2 years since I've been in that cell. It's, my vantage point is, from what I recall in the video, it's maybe upper left, maybe center of the door, because there's a box in the corner that were the old cameras, and then there's the dome cameras that were the newer cameras, and they weren't placed in the box, but I can't recall 100%.
So but it's up above the door?
Yes.
Kind of looking
in
sort of a little bit down and off into the cell, is that right?
into the cell, mostly, from what I remember, mostly seeing where the sitting area is, and just barely a little bit of the TV. You can see the light of the TV on, but you can't really see the TV playing. At the time of my vantage point, the camera angles get changed.
But that's what you recall that it was
That's what I recall.
in July of 2012, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So from that vantage point, from that camera, you would not actually be able to see what Mr. Holmes was watching on TV, but only that he's sitting there looking up at the TV, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Right, is there any recross?
One moment, please.
So just so we're clear, as of July 24th, based upon your knowledge and your information, at the time that particular note was sent, the defendant was in the media, famous on a worldwide basis, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
And there do not appear to be any questions from the jury. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir, he may. Thank you.
Any objection?
No.
All right, Deputy, thank you. Call your next witness, please.
We call John Henderson.
Good afternoon. Could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
John Kenneth Henderson, John Kenneth Henderson.
Ms. Brady.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Can you please tell the jury what you do for a living?
I'm employed as a criminal investigator with the Colorado Attorney General's office.
How were you employed on July 20th of 2012?
I was employed with the Department of Homeland Security as a federal air marshal assigned to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force.
And as part of your work with the FBI on July 20th of 2012, did you interview a man named Jason Tregellis?
Yes, I did.
And was Jason Tregellis a professor at the University of Colorado at Denver for one of the classes that James Holmes attended?
I believe he said he was an associate professor.
Okay. And did Mr. Professor Tregellis tell you that Mr. Holmes did not seem to engage with the other students?
Objection, hearsay, request to approach.
Yes, please approach. Members of the jury, thank you for your patience. I appreciate that. All right, Ms. Brady, you may proceed as we discussed at the bench.
Thank you. Agent, did Professor Tregellis tell you that Mr. Holmes did not seem to engage with the other students?
That's my recollection, yes.
And did Professor Tregellis tell you that Mr. Holmes did not say much during class?
Yes.
Did he say that Mr. Holmes seemed to march to his own drummer?
Yes.
That Mr. Holmes displayed unusual mannerisms?
Yes.
And that Mr. Holmes was awkward?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask the court to read the instruction at this time.
All right, members of the jury, where a witness has made a previous statement that's inconsistent with the witness's testimony at trial, the previous inconsistent statement is admissible not only for the purpose of impeaching the testimony of the witness, but also for the purpose of establishing a fact to which the testimony and the inconsistent statement relate. Does everybody understand that? Yes? Okay. I'll read it one more time if you wish. Where a witness has made a previous statement that's inconsistent with the witness's testimony at trial, the previous inconsistent statement is admissible not only for the purpose of impeaching the testimony of the witness, but also for the purpose of establishing a fact to which the testimony and the inconsistent statement relate. All right, Ms. Brady, do you have any other questions for this witness?
I don't, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Orman, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and there are no questions from the jury. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Any objection, Mr. Orman?
None, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Thomas Trisa.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Deputy, you've testified before, but just to refresh everyone's memory, why don't you please state your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Tom Triska, Tomtriska.
Good
Mr.
afternoon,
King?
Deputy.
Sorry.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your patience, sir. In your previous testimony, you testified, I'm just trying to cut to the chase here, that you were, I guess, the lead deputy assigned with bringing Mr. Holmes to his first few court appearances back in 2012. Is that right?
That's correct.
I want to turn your attention to the first court appearance, which was on July 23rd, 2012. Were you assigned to the Court Services Division in that capacity at that point in time?
I was.
And did you bring Mr. Holmes to court?
I did.
Who did that with you that day? Do you recall? If you need to see your report, I'm happy to provide it for you.
No, I don't need to see it. Deputy Hall, Hall, was with me that day.
Was he in some kind of training at that point in time?
I think, if memory serves me right, I think it was his second day off of training.
And where did you go to pick up Mr. Holmes to bring him to court that morning, and what time was it?
We went down to the medical unit. He was located in MC1. We went down there 8:45.
Okay.
For his court hearing, so probably about 8:45.
And what do you do when at MC1? And the jury's heard about that. Is the cell, that first cell that's actually the cell he lived in? Is that right?
Correct.
Do you actually go into MC1 to talk with him, or what do you do?
I did.
And where was he when you went in?
He was located on his bunk.
Did you give him instructions as to what was going to happen and what you were doing there?
I did.
And what did you need to do in order to get him ready to go before you could leave the cell to go to court?
Basically, I asked him to stand up and remove his red shirt. Asked him to put on a white T-shirt that we provided. We put on a ballistic vest, and we had him then place his red shirt back over that. And I gave Mr. Holmes instructions that I needed him to face the wall. Deputy Hall then placed the leg restraints around his right ankle, then his left ankle. And then we instructed him to turn back around and face us, and we put the body belt, basically the handcuffs on his right hand and then his left hand, secured the belt, and then basically gave him instructions on what we needed to do for there.
Were you observing him during the period of time that you were conducting this pat-down search and getting him dressed up to go to court?
I was.
And do you recall observing whether or not Mr. Holmes had a hard time standing on his own during that period of time?
Yes.
And do you recall whether or not you observed that Mr. Holmes' eyes appeared to wander off as you were talking to him?
I did.
Did you, during that period of time before you left the medical facility, become aware of whether or not Mr. Holmes was on any medications that you needed to be concerned of when you escorted him to court?
I asked the deputies that were down in the medical unit if Mr. Holmes was on any medications. They replied no. And at that time, I wasn't aware of him being on any type of medications.
Up to this point in time, was Mr. Holmes compliant with your commands and instructions?
He was.
And aside from the observations that you made, anything significant about this interaction in your mind?
No, sir.
What did you do after you got him suited up there?
Basically, we escorted him down what we call Main Street, and we took him down through the main part of the tunnel, brought him over to the courthouse, secured him in a whole cell until basically he was ready to come into court.
Okay. And during this period of time, did you continue to observe his demeanor?
I did.
And did you observe whether or not his eyes continued to wander and whether he continued to appear confused?
I did, and I would say that he remained in that capacity.
Okay. At some point, did you become aware that Ms. Brady and I, first of all, was Ms. Brady and I present at that court hearing?
You were.
And did you become aware whether Ms. Brady and I were requesting a brief opportunity to speak to Mr. Holmes before he was brought into court?
Yes.
And what did you do as a result of that request?
Sergeant Morris instructed me that the both of you would like to speak to him. We took him back to a jury room where you guys were, and we brought Mr. Holmes in and allowed you to talk to him prior to bringing him into the courtroom.
How long did we talk to him?
10 minutes.
Did you overhear the conversation? Were you eavesdropping on our conversation?
Yes, sir.
Was it after that you took him into the courtroom, sir?
I don't remember if we took him back to the whole cell or if we brought him immediately into court, but it was shortly one after the other.
Okay. And when you brought him into the courtroom, was the courtroom, first of all, was it this courtroom?
It was.
It was. And do you recall whereabouts you brought him in to be seated?
I do.
Where was that?
We brought him in the door to my left, and we had him have a seat in the very first chair closest to us in the jury box.
Okay. And where did you then position yourself? Were you where the sergeant is now, approximately? Or?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And was that in order to keep an eye on him and the proceedings?
Correct.
And for the record, your purpose there is to provide security. Is that right?
My role that day was specifically him.
Him.
Yes.
Okay. And that was why you were paying such close attention to him, fair to say?
Right.
During this period of time, when he was in the courtroom, did you continue to observe his behavior and demeanor?
Yes.
And did he continue to appear confused, sleepy at times, and his eyes wandering?
Yes.
Sir, have you had I'm going to ask to approach the witness if I may. I'm showing counsel what I've marked as DTR-83.
Okay.
May I approach the witness with DTR-83?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you 83. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And is that a DVD of that first court appearance?
It is.
Have you reviewed that, sir?
I did.
And did you see yourself and Mr. Holmes and Ms. Brady in that court appearance?
I did.
And did you initial that today after you reviewed it?
I did.
Did that appear to be a fairly accurate representation of Mr. Holmes' demeanor during that period of time when he was in the courtroom, at least?
Yes.
Judge, I'd move the admission of DTR 83.
Is there any objection?
Mr. King and I discussed that that would be a version that had no sound on it. He told me that's the case. I'm assuming that's the case. So I don't object to it, assuming that's the case. If they mix something up by accident, I don't want to waive my objection in case it does have sound on it.
All right, it doesn't have any sound, Mr. King?
Yes, Judge, that's correct. And I can clear that up with the deputy if you'd like me to do that.
That's
but-
okay. That's
Okay.
all right. I'll take
No,
your word
this
for it.
version has any sound is removed from it.
Okay. All right. Without objection, then D-TR-83 is admitted and may be published.
And I have no more questions for the Deputy Trisa. I have no objection to publishing the exhibit now or following the cross-examination either way.
Okay. Mr. Orman, do you have a preference?
I think I'd prefer to cross after it's been published, Your Honor.
All right, let's go ahead and publish it then. Do you want me to dim the lights?
Yes, please, sir, and I think this is a little over 11 minutes long.
Okay. Okay, the record should reflect that we just finished playing D-DR-83. Mr. Orman, cross-examination.
Thank you. Deputy, first I want to ask you about that video, and then I want to ask you some other questions. Then I'll probably come back to the video. When that was recorded, was the camera that was recording that visible in the courtroom?
It was.
Was it in fact like a big TV camera from like a TV station on a tripod over here?
Yes, sir.
And by over here, I'm sort of motioning towards the front of the gallery on the left-hand side as you would face the judge?
Correct.
Do you know whether or not the defendant was wearing his contact lenses when this was happening?
That day I did not.
This happened on the morning of July 23rd, correct?
The court appearance?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What we just saw on
Yes.
the video. Was that a Monday?
Sounds right.
All right. So does it sound right that he was arrested in the early morning hours of July 20th?
Correct.
So then evening of July 20th, do you know how many hours of sleep the defendant actually got?
No, sir.
And even if he'd been lying in bed, he might not have been sleeping, correct?
Objection calls for speculation.
It's proper lay opinion, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Correct. I would have no idea.
And let's talk about then the 21st. Do you have any idea how much sleep the defendant got during the day, the evening, or any time on the 21st of July?
No, sir.
How about the 22nd, the night before? Do you have any idea how much sleep the defendant got on the 22nd or during the day or the evening or any time on the 22nd?
No, sir.
And then the early morning hours of the 23rd, before the defendant was woken up by you, and did you wake him up?
No, sir. He was awake when we got there.
Okay. Well, before he woke up, do you know how much sleep he would have gotten the morning of the 23rd?
No.
Right, so do you know if he got any sleep at all from the time that he was arrested until the time he was brought into court?
I have no idea.
But you did notice that he appeared sleepy, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you wrote an official police report where you put in there you thought he looked sleepy, right?
I did.
Have you seen people in the past that have gone without sleep?
Yes.
In relevance.
Overruled.
Did the defendant appear to you to be in a state where he probably hadn't gotten a lot of sleep?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
Yes.
In that video, does he also appear upset and sad?
I don't know if he was upset or sad. I think that
Objection to any speculation, Your Honor.
He's answered the question. I don't know what else he was gonna say, so. He's answered the question. You should ask the next question.
Thank you. Would it be natural for a person in the defendant's position to have a lot on their mind at that point in time?
Objection, lack of foundation, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Orman, you may proceed as we talked about at the bench.
Thank you. Would it be natural for a person who was facing 12 counts or potentially 12 counts of murder and brought into their first court appearance to have a lot on their mind?
Yes.
When you were interacting with the defendant, did he appear to be responding to things that were not there?
No.
In other words, did he appear to answer questions from voices and people that were not actually speaking?
No.
When you asked him to do something, did he react appropriately?
He did.
For instance, when you said, put on this shirt, did he put on the shirt or did he respond by saying, well, that's a basset hound and I can't put that on?
He complied with what I asked him to do.
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
You can.
That concludes my cross-examination. Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. King, do you have any redirect?
Briefly. Deputy, are you sure he didn't say anything about a basset hound?
I'm positive he didn't say anything about a basset hound.
You're not a psychiatrist, are you, or a psychologist?
No, sir.
You weren't inside Mr. Holmes' head, were you?
No, sir.
You don't know what he was thinking or what he was seeing, do you?
No, sir.
You don't know if he was responding to internal stimuli or voices or seeing things, or you don't have any idea what was going on inside his head, do you?
I don't.
All you know is what you observed. Is that right?
Correct.
No other questions?
Is there any recross?
Thank you, Your Honor. What you observed, sir, was that he was responding to your questions appropriately, correct?
Correct.
And what you saw was that he was responding to your commands and directives appropriately, correct?
Correct.
And what you saw was that he was not responding to voices or people or things that were not there, correct?
Calls to speculation.
Overruled?
Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. The jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena, Mr. King?
Yes.
All right. Any objection, Mr. Orman?
I don't, Your Honor.
All right. Sir, thank you. Members of the jury, it's 5 till 3. Let's go ahead and take our afternoon break. Please keep in mind all my admonishments. They all apply during the break. I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Is there anything we need to talk about before our break? Please, thank you. All right, we'll be on break. I'll see you in 20. Thank you. The court will be in recess.